Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're listening. Welcome to this week's session of DappRadar Market Movers. Today is the 26th edition and already in August. It's incredible how time flies. And I hope you are having an amazing week and a great day. I'm Pedro here, the host, and today with me, Boris Ribo, our research analyst. How are you doing today, Boris?
Doing great. Thank you very much.
Cool. So we have just published our July report, and we are finding super interesting insights coming out from all the turmoil that the Terra collapse left behind, and all the crypto contagion that we have been seeing in CeFi platforms. But interesting things happening in DeFi, the NFT, and the game especially. Uh, but before jumping into the discussion, I want to remind everyone here that we will be recording the session as always, so you can listen to this or any of our previous shows on the Radar, YouTube, and Spotify channels, where you will also find hundreds of educational videos, market updates, and content from our other shows. All right, so let's begin. The industry still trapped in a bear trend. There's no denial of that. Price of Bitcoin and ETH and the most important coins are showing signs of recovery. However, the activity in the Dapp industry is still a bit slow and yeah, going through a cool down phase. Boris, anything you want to share? What is your take on this space evolving over the last month? What's your main take on the July situation?
Well, overall, personally, I think we're starting to see a light in the end of the tunnel. Particularly the biggest vertical that's been affected has been DeFi. We've seen pretty much a 68% reduction from last quarter across the board for most blockchains. Some have been affected more than others, but as I said, on average, it's 68. And this month, we're finally seeing that everything is in the green. Ethereum has been up by 24%. BNB chain is up by 14%. Tron is up by 51, and so on. So we're finally seeing some positive numbers. Overall, compared to where we were last year on a lot of verticals, we are still up in terms of volume transactions and in terms of um, trade count and volume transactions. So yes, compared to the beginning of the year, we're down, but uh, I think that we're recovering at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if we compare to the beginning of the year, we were coming out of the metaverse hype cycle where everything was popping. No matter where you put your darts, you will be targeting bullseye. So that is a bit rough to compare to our peak, but still, the industry is still, let's say, going through a consolidation cycle. And if we review the number of unique active wallets that we are monitoring over almost 50 blockchains, we see that the Dapp industry hit its yearly low with only 1.65 million daily wallets connecting on average to these dApps. Uh, but yeah, as you say, like there's still silver linings and probably maybe light at the end of the tunnel. Talking about DeFi, you told us about total value lock, right? You were talking about TVL.
Yep.
So 24% increase in Ethereum, and there is undoubtedly, without a question, a void left by Terra. Let's remember that in May, Terra was the second largest DeFi ecosystem with over 20 billion in total value locked in their smart contracts, very popular stablecoins. And the market needs to react, and there are participants, mainly blockchains that we were already seeing. Binance probably leading the pack in that regard, which is now consolidated as the second largest blockchain in terms of DeFi after Ethereum, which whose dominance is still very predominant. Any other things that stand out from the DeFi perspective?
For myself personally, I think that because, as you mentioned, the void that Terra left by its absence is absolutely staggering. What we're going to see is that everything abhors a vacuum, and we're going to see other blockchains will start, other blockchains will start to fill that void whenever possible. Now, the question is there, who is most likely to take up that void? My personal bet is that is going to either be Ethereum or BNB chain. BNB chain has already become de facto the second biggest chain, although by Ethereum still leads by a very large margin. It has a TVL of 45 billion, whether BNB has close to 6 billion. So the factor of difference there is quite large. So the way I see it is that because when the whole market is essentially in a recession, the weaker hands get flushed and the stronger hands, reap everything that's left on the market. And so what I think is that we are proportionally going to see Ethereum cannibalize a lot of that space. The rest is going to go to BNB chain, and maybe in a very unlikely scenario, but I'm not ruling this out, maybe Polygon or some other chain is going to create a revolutionary or a miracle, a new Dapp or some kind of new protocol, and it's going to pioneer it or rocket it straight into the second or third place.
Yeah, for me, it's keeping an eye on layer two solutions also, optimism and arbitrum. Still picking up the pace quite slow, but at some point they are building quite interesting ecosystems out there and focusing a lot in DeFi products. So let's keep an eye on the layer twos and of course side chains like Polygon and other scaling solutions. I mean, Phantom was picking up the pace last year until Andre Cronje, the founder, left. And I don't know if they can regain that pace. And near the high scaling protocol also worth taking an eye. And always a reminder of guys, be sure and stay safe and play safe. Again, another week, another big hack targeting blockchain breaches. We're not going to dive deeper into that, but yeah, when you're transacting in DeFi or when you're transacting anything Web3 related, play quite safe. And then, okay, so DeFi keeping up the pace again, and then we go to the next big topic, and probably one that, yeah, it's undeniable that is interesting for everyone, NFTs. And the question is, has the NFT bubble finally burst? What do you think?
Well, all bubbles burst sooner or later. It's undeniable that, yes, we are essentially back to where we started a year ago. This month, the NFT trading volume is below 1 billion. And
That's a first timer. Like since June of last year, we haven't failed to surpass the 1 billion mark. Since July, it was like 1.7, and then from there upwards. And for the first time in more than 1 year, we failed to hit the 1 billion mark. So, of course, this raised eyebrows and raised probably alarms of some members of the NFT community.
again, this the sales count, comparatively speaking, is pretty much stable. So we had 5.88 5.88 million transactions. This time we're a little bit better, so we're 5.89 million transactions. So our interest and the amount of people trading is pretty stable. I would say that the reduction naturally is happening, and if we remember, it's more or less the marginally less than what we had in March. March we had 6.39 million transactions. So yes, we are of course less, but we're still within the Bollinger Bands of acceptable trading deviations. What is, however, the reduction has been in absolute values. And the absolute values are, of course, mainly due because we have the fundamental underlying currencies such as Ethereum, Solana, and many other currencies. They're, of
Yep.
course, way down. In some cases, 50%, 60, 70%, depending on your currency. So that, of course, dictates the overall volume of the market. So if you're going to look at this from the perspective of absolute volumes, yes, I guess you could make an argument that, oh no, NFT market has popped. I personally do not consider it so. When people will stop losing interest and then we'll see less transactions, that's will be the first time when it will become worrying. But our transactions are still way up. If we compare transaction volume from a year ago in July, it was 4.98, and we're still way above that.
Yeah, I agree. Like, there is one thing that might cause a more concern, that the prices are, the volumes are priced in dollars. So with token prices at historical, well, not historical, but yearly lows, of course the volumes are going to be low. But also, like, if you review the token balances of different marketplaces, let's talk about OpenSea, like, still way below the record hikes of Q1, way well below 33% from the balances that we saw on May. So yeah, still low, but at the same time, the number of trades and the number of sales are still maintaining their level. So this tells us that the demand is for NFTs is still there. However, it's a cyclical event, and NFT market is starting to become one of their own, right? With first the super cycle of avatar and profile pictures, with all the bored apes, then with the doodles, cool cats, and then Asuki and so on. And then the second cycle boosted by all the meta narrative, right? And then now we're in a consolidation phase, where we're experiencing a back down. Then again, more liquidity was drained from the ecosystem, was poured into the other side, mint in May. Then way more liquidity, 60 billion were drained when Terra collapsed. So the liquidity in the space right now is a bit scarce. So in my opinion, too, there is no way to panic. Of course, there are going to be projects that are not going to make out. They're not never going to recover. But still, NFTs are not dead, because a lot of media are killing NFTs already. But I mean, the use cases of NFTs are immense. So let's keep an eye on that. And in your opinion, what's the next big super cycle that we could have in NFTs? Are you tracking or expecting any type of NFTs to explode next?
Personally, I think we're going, and we're already starting to see it, is that we're going to have utility NFTs take the stage. Because we already saw that game-related NFTs, metaverse-related NFTs, I mean, we saw other deeds explode earlier this year. And in the future, we'll see more game passes, and the Ethereum name service is also another very popular collection this year. So I think we're going to go away from just pictures, and it's going to become a more refined and, of course, for some people, less approachable product. So they'll, because understanding a picture is very easy. You look at it, it looks nice, whatnot. You can use it as your profile on Twitter. That's nice. But when you start talking about passes or NFTs with utility, that will involve a lot more knowledge and forethought from potential buyers. And because it's not as approachable, we are probably going to see less overall traffic, but we are still going to see a certain level of demand and revenues there that are going to be constant.
Yeah, for example, Starbucks has just announced that they are going all into Web3 and NFTs. I think they're launching an NFT pass over the next weeks. So this is just an example of how traditional brands are going to leverage NFTs into utility, as you were saying, into their real life products. And for me, it's also keeping an eye still on blockchain games, the NFTs of blockchain games, the virtual lands, and so on. Throughout, especially throughout the last stretch of the year, probably Q4, we are going to see again game NFTs picking up, especially when some of the big players launch their gameplay, or yeah, also that the constant games that the leading games are revamping their offerings and reaching new milestones in their roadmaps. I think we could see an uptick in NFT games again. Uh, sorry. And sticking to the NFT side of things, what can you tell us about the NFT marketplace wars? I remember that you wrote a mini report a couple of weeks ago about the new marketplace wars. The OpenSea dominance is below 60% for the first time ever, I would say, since the NFT explosion. And this is because the rise of the market, just not only in Ethereum, but in other blockchains. We see GameStop in Loopring. We see, of course, Magic Eden in Solana that just has announced that it will become also multi-chain, expanding to Ethereum. And X2Y2, what do you make of these new marketplace wars? Do you think that OpenSea could be dethroned at some point?
Well, they still are, by definition, a monopoly. They control more than half the market.
Yeah.
So we can't quite say that they're being dethroned. Yes, their market share is decreasing with every quarter. Yes, we're seeing, especially I'm personally very much intrigued by Magic Eden, and especially the potential in Solana. Of course, as we mentioned earlier, Solana is not having such a hot day today, considering that they're undergoing another hack that's going on. But overall, Solana as a chain, it has a lot of potential and has a lot of promise, especially when it comes in terms of cheaper, more efficient, and easier transactions than Ethereum. You don't have gas wars, and it is having a lot of very interesting collections. So it already is forming nearly 10%, and I can see that growing in the potential future. As far as OpenSea is still, even when I remember writing the article, is also trying to keep its market share. If I remember correctly, they opened a side part of their platform, OpenPort. So
yeah, Seaport. Yeah.
And they essentially try to buy anything well. You can buy the Ethereum, you can start auctioning online. They're branching off into other blockchains because for the longest time they've been Ethereum only. Now they're trying to go into Solana. So they are keeping up with their services and their potential. So unless OpenSea is going to stagnate and something, I don't know, God forbid, but I wish them all the best. But let's say something catastrophic happens potentially, and they cannot keep up with the services, then yes, we're going to see somebody step in and take their place. But so far, I think we're going to see marginally differ from quarter to quarter. Maybe OpenSea's dominance is going to decrease, but so far I don't see them being dethroned as the leader in them or the monopoly in the market.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. As an NFT trader myself, I've been lured recently by the proposition that X2Y2 is giving to its community. It's an interesting product with interesting interfaces and so on. And also Magic Eden expanding to Ethereum, it's going to, I think, eat a bit of OpenSea's share. But I've got to agree that it's still far away, in my opinion, also to see that dethronement of the fall of OpenSea. I think they are the leader there, and they will continue to be for yeah, at least in the short and midterm. Yeah, that's how things probably are going to play out. Good stuff. Okay, so we've talked about DeFi and NFTs. let's talk about one of our favorite topics here, blockchain games. And it's super interesting to see. We have been talking about blockchain games for a while and how, despite the negative market sentiment across the entire industry, that despite the number of gamers connecting to these game dApps has been decreasing for the past couple of months, we were always mentioning that there were bullish signals painting the path of blockchain games. And this month we finally see a decouplement. Games separate the trend that the industry entirely is seeing. What is your take on blockchain games, Boris?
Well, they're growing as a vertical. They see the dominance in unique active wallets is growing. I remember when I wrote the report, they grew by, if I remember correctly, in terms of their dominance by 3 percentage points. Now that we're seeing it as of this month, they've grown by 5 percentage points. So incrementally, by, if you pardon the phrase, by 1,000 cuts, we're slowly dominating in terms of the sheer presence and the interactions on the blockchain. So now they form 57% of all interactivity on the blockchain in terms of unique active wallets.
Yeah, and actually, while we see the number of wallets connecting to DeFi dApps or even NFTs or social or other type of categories, blockchain games actually keep increasing. Like number of players increased this month and almost got to 1 million gamers again, which is great to see. And yeah, the dominance. Blockchain games now represent 60% of the activity. The blockchain activity that we are tracking comes entirely from blockchain games. Um, so yeah, yet another aspect of why being bullish with blockchain games. And talking about blockchain games, next week for DappRadar is going to be super interesting. We are going to host our first DappDays week. This means that each day we will feature a different blockchain game. Yeah, sorry, we're going to feature first focus on blockchain games. DappDays of game dApps. So next week we'll have a focus on 5 different games, starting with Aavegotchi on Monday, Alien Worlds, Axie Infinity, VulcanVerse, and Blockchain Brawlers. So we will have different AMAs each day next week featuring these dApps, and we will be talking about blockchain games in an interesting panel in a couple of weeks in this space in Market Movers. So let's keep an eye on blockchain games, and let's keep that conversation for in 2 weeks' time. Okay, so we have talked about the most important categories of the dApp industry, but let's focus our attention on the more macro perspective. You are quite immersed in the capital market worlds. You have a vast knowledge of that industry. What are your expectations on months to come from the macro perspective, and how do you think it will affect the blockchain industry?
So one thing is that we're seeing, which I find a bit worrying, is the recent rumblings that happened in China related to
Oh
Taiwan.
yes.
We saw this reflect in and of course, America passed the subsidy bill to support chip making in the US. And the way I see it is going to have a twofold effect. On one hand, because a lot of the chips, due to their proximity to China, they got shipped directly to China, and of course, they had the comparative advantage to the West. And because cryptocurrencies are not as the mining cryptocurrencies is not as profitable as it was half a year ago, we're going to see a flood of a lot of graphics cards and graphics related chips that were used for mining flood the market right now. So in this regard, uh, what is going to affect is that, well, for a lot of people, we're going to see a lot of cards, and we'll see manufacturing move over from Taiwan, and from the east, more towards the US. In terms of cryptocurrencies, I think in the future, once all of this is consolidated, a lot more people are going to have very good and advanced graphics cards when it comes to mining. So once the situation resolves itself, we'll see a lot more dependence on Taiwan and China in that regard. In the short term, however, we are going to see for anybody that wants to buy a graphics card for their gaming PC or whatnot, well, they have quite an advantage because a lot of them are selling, between 40 to 20% below recommended market price. As,
Interesting.
yeah, as far as the markets are concerned, we're starting to rebound. The Nasdaq, which is predominantly the index that is closely correlated to cryptocurrencies, because we're of course very much dependent on technology stocks. It is slowly beginning to recover. We're already nearly 20% up from our lows in June, and it seems like we're for the first time that there's actually a glimmer of hope that things are going to work out in that regard. And we're seeing this, of course, also in cryptocurrencies as well. We see BNB chain is up by nearly 30%. Ethereum, Solana, well, Solana perhaps not because of the recent hack, but
Yeah.
but Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are beginning to recover as well.
Which is still surprising to see Solana not down big time, even though they were majorly hacked. Like they had a big issue, and the price of Sol kind of resisted that. And yeah, you're right. Like the cheap narrative is going to be super interesting. Let's remember that at some point before the war in Russia, most of the mining power was firstly located in China. Then, due to several bans, Russia at some point held the lead on that, and then it's as start to slowly migrated into the US. So it's going to be interesting how they are going to get more leverage on Bitcoin precisely, and also how it's a good timing for Ethereum to migrate into proof of stake, which is also a really important event for the industry that will happen in September. Ethereum will finally move to the proof of stake consensus algorithm, a move that we have been expecting for quite some time now. The merge is finally happening. And yeah, some people might think that the price of it is going to explode. I'm not sure that's going to happen. Let's remember that we still function as a efficient market that reacts proactively to the price in terms of price to events. So I'm not sure that's going to happen this year. However, there is a possibility that we start to see a decoupling from the capital market. Is this the year that finally cryptocurrencies will start to decouple from the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq that you mentioned? I don't know. Let's wait and see. But there is a possibility that we finally start to see that happening, especially with the high inflation that I'm not sure they are going to stop at some point in near time. I don't know. Do you think what's going to happen with inflation? Do you think it's still going to be pointing up, or do you think there will be enough monetary policies to prevent that?
Personally, again, this is my subjective take, but I do not see the Fed essentially rein in the inflation as much as they hope to. The recent interview with Powell was, for myself personally, quite disheartening in the sense that, well, he kind of tacitly admitted that we don't know what we're doing. We're just kind of trying to do the best with what we're given, which is not what you want to hear from the person who is literally, stirring the juggernaut that controls the world finances. So, yeah, personally, usually in the long term, everything works out. As the question is, how liquid are people going to be?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that until the end of the year, we're still going to be gripping it. Of course, it's going to be easing out, and we're seeing the markets react positively already. But this year is financially is going to be very hard for a lot of the industries. Particularly, what is also concerning is that the industries that are supposed to be doing well, like retail,
Yes.
Walmart essentially did not post, and essentially they are the biggest retailer in the whole world at this point, and they also did not paint a very optimistic picture until the end of the year, and they actually reducing inventory. Well, they have a lot of inventory that's already just stacked and is on the shelf since quarter 1. So people are not emptying the inventory, they're not buying anything new, and they reduce their forecast. So this year, unfortunately, the recession, despite the fact that everybody is aware that we are in a recession, by the technical definition, people are skirting the
Yeah.
issue, trying to change it. Um, yeah, there's no way to sugarcoat it, but comparatively speaking, it's not as bad as when we were 10 years ago in the '08 crisis, or uh, even before that, as bad as we were in the 1970s crisis or any other one. So, yes, it is hard, but I don't think that people are going to be running for the hills and we're going to start eating zoo animals. So,
Yeah,
no,
hopefully we stay away.
yeah, yeah, it's not as bad as that.
I
So,
mean, let's not get into food security issue because that's also a big problem. But
yeah. If
yeah,
you
yeah,
will allow me a slight hot take, is that since you mentioned Ethereum, what I think is very interesting is that because Ethereum is very cheap right now, comparatively speaking. I mean, we were 4,000 and we dipped at a certain point and to 950 thereabouts. So
yeah.
while Ethereum is cheap right now, and we're going to move to proof of stake, where essentially the whales commit a certain amount of their possessions to provide liquidity to secure the war chest for the blockchain. I think, this move will encourage a lot of people while it's cheap now to buy a huge chunks, and then we're going to produce a lot of new whales for Ethereum that are going to buy a lot of it. And then when the merger finally happens, we're going to see a lot of people who profited, especially in this time right now, who took advantage of cheap Ethereum tokens.
Yeah, people that bought Ethereum at 950 are almost 50%, sorry, 100% off. So, yeah, that's super probable to happen. And something similar might happen to Bitcoin. Like, you know that Michael Saylor has just stepped down as MicroStrategy's CEO. Now will be part of the executive board. But there are rumors whirling around MicroStrategy. They are, by the way, one of the largest Bitcoin whales, and it's it's being rumored that they are going to lay off a lot of their Bitcoin holdings. So if that happens, that could also put some sell pressure on the number one crypto. But yeah, I mean, super interesting times ahead, definitely. Okay, let's close this talking about regulations because there have been some, yeah, turbulence in the industry. We know the story of Terra and Dokwon. We know the high leverage positions that 3AC, Celsius, Voyager, and BlockFi had. So, what are you reading about? What are policymakers focusing on the crypto as the next steps?
Well, hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry for a second there. Everything went quiet. I was not sure if I disconnected them. Um, Personally, we saw um, a lot of, well, the collapse was so significant that people in the traditional financial industry took notice of it. And as I mentioned in our previous podcast, I think it's going to be another knee-jerk reaction, kind of like what Dodd-Frank was in the '08 crisis, is that we're going to have quite a significant overhaul. Quite recent, just the first reaction that came out of the Securities and Exchange Commission in the US is that they doubled the amount of staff that they have overseeing crypto-related products and exchanges. The latest news out there which has happened is that Robinhood has been fined for their malpractices regarding crypto. As we see, all of that is already going into effect. And this may not be a particularly popular opinion, but overseeing how much unnecessary risk a lot of people in the crypto industry are being exposed to, I think a little bit of again, it's too early to say because, for example, in Europe, the Federal Stability Board, also known as the FSB, please do not confuse them with the Russian Special Forces. So the Federal Stability, the European Federal Stability Bureau, they are going to propose their legislative proposals this October for the G12, and we're going to see how they plan to overhaul the industry there, whether they will create new regulatory laws, whether they're going to use existing ones, whether there will be some kind of harmonization between what happens in Europe and the US or Switzerland. That we don't know. So far, what has happened in the US, that they have multiple bills on the docket, and they're trying to regulate stable coins. Again, they're trying to apply existing regulation as far as it's possible, but they're going to tailor make a few laws in order to be able to prevent such kind of things happening in the future. I think the concrete proposals, or what we can say, will be at the end of this quarter, if not beginning of the fourth one, when then we can see and start talking about the results or the prospects of the industry. Of course, I understand everybody's apprehension is that, anytime people talk about, hey, regulation, especially coming in from the traditional industry, people who do not understand how the industry works, and for them, they prefer, in their eyes, to err on the side of caution, and everybody's afraid that they're essentially going to kill everything off. Nobody wants that. I think even the traditional industry, to some extent, understand that there is a lot of money being made here. There's a lot of very creative people here. I don't think they don't have a vested interest in killing off the industry. And we're going to see, naturally, it's going to change. How far and by how much, it's too early to tell at this point.
Too early to tell, but it's also going to be a challenge how we different regulations, and we're already seeing, right? Different regulations in different regions, how it's going to affect the adoption of crypto is going to be interesting to see how it unfolds over the last. Yeah, to be honest, like I don't expect this year to be like any major changes in terms of crypto regulations. However, this year taught us two important lessons. One is, and it hasn't ended yet, of course, but so far, two important lessons are the one that we really need a regulated environment, especially to protect investors, either institutional, retailer, or any type of investors. We cannot afford to have a Terra 2.0 type of event happening in the industry. It could be catastrophic for the for the reputation of our blockchain industry. And second, I mean, there is a need also to regulate blockchain bridges more specifically. There is a need to be sure that these protocols are. Most of the hacks into blockchain bridges are originated because of bad practices of the teams controlling the contracts. So if law enforcement and policies around this topic starts to become more harsh, I would expect the teams to be more cautious and focus more on the security side of things rather than just laying down poor smart contracts like with some flaws in them. So I would expect that to change in at some point. I don't know if this year, but we're going to see a step up in regulations at some point next year. Okay, so I don't know if anyone from the audience who has anything else to add or wants to ask some questions. Feel free and join the conversation. Okay, so Boris, I don't know if you have any questions, any closing remark you to have?
Sorry, you kind of cut off there in the end. Oh, wait, we have Delhi that wants to speak. Hello, Delhi.
So my question is merely about new coins that are going to be coming out and bridgeable ones towards the main networks that are currently in circulation. Maybe you have it, Matic, Ethereum, or just any other coin connection with bridging right now.
If I understand you correctly, do we as DappRadar have any coins that we're bridging or looking forward to bridging?
Yeah.
For myself personally, I'm not aware in regards to that. Pedro, can you add some colors to this?
Oh, so far we have Polygon and Binance, right? At some point in time, as the DAO and the community opens, there will be space for you guys, members of our community, and especially the pro users, to propose these type of things, so we as community can vote as a normal governance system and decide whether we could integrate the probably Avalanche or probably like other type of chains. But at this point in time, it's only 3 Ethereum, Binance, and Polygon. But be sure to follow us on social media, and be sure to be active on our community to follow up what's next in the radar lifetime.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Interesting things. So yeah, the Radar token can be, just to add on that, the Radar token and token can be staked on Ethereum, and the rewards can be claimed in Polygon or in Binance as one of the first cross staking tokens out there, if not the first one. So yeah, I mean, be sure to be following Discord actively. There we post all of the updates regarding to DappRadar DAO and the Radar token itself. And also, we have monthly community calls where we give this type of updates. But yeah, good question. So Boris, anything you want to add?
I would say that we are in a very on the precipice of where not only the crypto industry, but where the traditional financial industry is going to go. It seems that on the technical level, we've reached the bottom. We're going to recover, but now the real question is this a bull trap where we recover a little bit and then and people think that we're out of the woods, they start investing, and then we slide further down? Or is this the real recovery and we're going to be on the up and up from here? I think while everybody's still in summer and the economic economic productivity is not as high as usually during this time in the summer, and once people are going to go back to work and return from summer vacations in September, then we're going to see how the industry is going. So far, I say that people should enjoy the summer, catch some rays while they still can, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Okay, yeah, sounds about right. Summertime, so let's enjoy it. Thank you for your valuable insights, as always. And of course, I want to give a big thanks to all of you for your valuable questions and for being active in our community. So next week we will be off from this space, as I mentioned earlier. We'll be hosting DappDays, AMAs with different games. But be sure to tune in 2 weeks. We're preparing a very special gaming panel where we will talk and sit down with some gaming experts out there. So you don't want to miss that out. And of course, remember also that next week we will have the AMA sessions throughout the entire week at 5 p.m. Central European time. So you don't want to miss that either. And please don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter and social media channels on Twitter, Discord, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And that would be all for today, folks. I wish you a lovely evening and have an amazing weekend. Thank you all. Bye bye.
All the best.